Great to have Kane Corns with us this week. I'm absolutely loving it. And I did our show Thursday morning.
Yes.
Wandered off, and I didn't certainly read about it Thursday. I woke up Friday morning and just went, "What?"
Yeah, it was about
Brett Ratten.
Yeah, it was about 10:30 on Thursday night. The reason I know this is because I was nearly towards the back end of the Dolly Parton stage show, and I was quite bored, and I checked my phone and saw this news had broken, and then discussed it at length with Kingy on Friday. But we were all in the dark at that stage, and then Simon Lethlean and Andrew Bassett spoke at 11:30 on Friday, just before lunchtime, and tried to explain their decision, Gaz. But this is your sort of first opportunity to speak about it. I'm really interested in your response.
Oh, they just you got to go back to the re-signing, and I don't think this is any great revelation. Is that in the middle of the year, when you're 8-3, 8 wins and 3 losses, and your coach is obviously doing a reasonable job, then you sit back and think, okay, I think we've got the man that we need here. I'm not big on signing coaches at that stage of a season, so they didn't, which I thought was a good move. Then some pressure came to bear because they lost their next 3 games. And then they're at 8-6, and that's when they went and re-signed him. And I think, there was questions and criticisms. Just Nick Riewoldt, who's strong and is, got St Kilda blood pouring through his veins. I remember talking to him about it at the time, and he's sort of going, well, okay, he's going okay, but why were he signing, particularly when Alistair Clarkson's out there?
Would you make the call? You'd make the call.
Why?
Well, to gauge interest for a start. I think you'd be derelict in your duty if you didn't make the call. If Alistair Clarkson was busting to get to your football club, then I think you make the phone call.
That was part of his rationale about, okay, don't rush into it, particularly when you got this bloke sitting there. Andrew Bassett, he had this to say about re-signing Brett Ratten midway through the season.
The review has already delivered a new GM of football in Jeff Walsh, and it became clear that we needed to have a new senior coach with a new style of leadership and a new voice. I want to address the issue of the contract extension mid-season. We gave Brett assurance at the start of 2022 that would give him clarity mid-year. At the time, the team was winning games and in contention, and we wanted to give Brett all the support he needed to give him the best chance of success and to show that he could be our long-term coach. If we, as a club, have regrets about that in hindsight, we cannot let those regrets get in the way of making the right decision for the future.
So almost the concession there that they just made a balls up. And it is. It's a balls up any way you look at it. And rightfully there would be St Kilda supporters out there and members, long-term members, who'd be saying, okay, what faith should we have in you as a football club to now make the right decision, given that only 99 days ago you deemed that Brett Ratten was going to be your man, and in the space of 3 months you've turned around and changed your mind again. Why should we be have the trust and faith that you're going to get it right this time?
Yeah, there's so much to work our way through, and because largely, to your point, the people that re-signed him have sacked him. Now, really, the only name that is different is David Noble, and there'd be questions about David Noble's experience and his success as a senior coach. He's 5-31 at North Melbourne, so he seems to be the only different voice. What has David Noble uncovered? Now, I get you've got to be respectful to the coach on the way out, but I don't know what they've uncovered in terms of Brett Ratten's leadership style. Clearly, the review was scathing on that. Now, they don't want to say that because you've got to let Brett walk out the door with some dignity. So there's that part of it. This struck me. I want to have a listen to Andrew Bassett speaking about the fact that they decided to sack him, but then they made him plead for his job.
Brett and I, Simon had a bit of a conversation with Brett on Sunday night as we got to a decision that was really subject to Brett being given a genuine opportunity to convince us that we were getting something wrong. Brett and Simon and I had a meeting on Monday, and over the course of the week I spent, I think, about 7 hours with Brett, going over all the detail and giving him every opportunity he could with a genuine open mind to tell us that we got something wrong in terms of the decision that really came down to feeling that for this football club to have a genuine chance for contending going forward, we need a different style of leadership and a different voice. And
so you make the decision on the back of a review, then you sit him down for 7 hours and get him to plead for his job and convince you that you got something wrong. I mean, how humiliating is that?
Yeah, and I found that strange as well. Like, mate, in their eyes, were they just being too respectful? In the end, if after 99 days you're going to make the decision that, we mucked that up badly, and therefore we know how hard this is going to be, and we know that we're going to get criticised, and we know we'll look like a laughing stock, but we're going to make the call anyway. In some weird sort of twisted way, I admire that, right? So you go, okay, we're going to make the call. Well, don't then turn around and go, well, can you talk us out of it? Yeah. Because that call requires what they didn't have right then, and that is an 100% certainty that this is the right thing to do. And they can say, well, we were certain back 99 days ago. Well, why then do we have faith in you to be certain this time? If they're certain, they go, no, you're gone. I know it's harsh. I know we're going to look like, mongrels and all that sort of stuff. And then they went on to explain that it unveiled these things. And I think in time they're going to have to talk about what those things are. I think the St Kilda Football Club members owe it to their members to turn around and say, okay, these are some of the issues that we have. And I know it's hard, and it'd be hard for Brett Ratten to hear, because I love Brett Ratten. Everyone loves Brett Ratten. But what are they? What were the things that they did uncover that said, right, this necessitated a 99-day turnaround?
Yeah, they said they wouldn't speak about those reasons, but they will release some of those findings, to your point, which they need to do. And then, so exactly what you said is spot on. That struck me. And then this 6-month payout clause, I cannot get my head around how the Coaches Association, how the industry has just accepted that we can sign coaches for a tenure, but then sack them and only be forced to pay out 6 months of the contract. If you are an agent of one of these coaches, you cannot let these deals slip through. Now, St Kilda aren't a financial club. They rely on the AFL clearly, but they only have to stump up 6 months of a 2-year contract. And Brett Ratten on the 17th day of October has got to go look for a job. When everyone else has already shored up their football departments. It's cruel.
They are all absolute legitimate decisions, and you wonder why you'd go into the coaching caper. So right now then, well, I don't know. So Ross Lyon is the name that keeps emerging and keeps emerging and keeps emerging. A man who's consistently sort of said, well, no, I'm happy in the media, and I'm happy, and I don't want to go through a process. So, which is absolutely fine. I respect Rossi's. I go, okay, good. That means, because someone once said to me, if you're not 100%, if you're not 99.9% certain that you're going to coach, then you're not certain. And if that's where he's at, then absolutely I respect it. If it turns around now and they go, we're not going through a process, we're going after Ross Lyon, well, again, in a weird way, I respect someone would have the strength of convictions, go after your man and get him, want to be the right one.
Well, they're not going to go through a process because they're saying weeks, not months. So to do it in weeks, you couldn't form a panel and go through.
Do you think they know who the coach?
Yes.
Do you think it was known before the decision was made on Brett?
100% I do.
And do you think it's Ross Lyon?
Yes, I do. Now, I may be wrong, but that would be you can't even bet on, I'm not a punter, but you can't even bet. The markets aren't even open. Right. That's how short it is. So can he do the job? That is a legitimate question. And are they going back to the old St Kilda of the 2010s? Lenny Hayes is back. Revolt, Mark Robinson has spoken about perhaps his influence as a power broker and advising Andrew Basson and his love for Ross Lyon. Brendan Goddard's put his hand up to go back as an assistant coach. It feels very old 2010 St Kilda to me.
Yeah, it does. How much of that is true? May come out in time. I do know those boys are just devotees. They're disciples.
Yeah.
Like you are with Mark Williams.
Yes.
For reasons.
And I understand that.
Yeah, which reasons that are well founded. Mark Williams took you to the promised land, and you would, Mark Williams, wherever you are and whatever he's doing, if he picked the phone up, you would be there in a heartbeat.
100%.
And that's a similar sort of devotion that these blokes have to Ross. So I hear him I talk about it a lot with Nick and with Joey Montagna and Nick Dell at Fox. They talk about how hard and ruthless. Now, so what you got to do is try and marry your coach up with your footy club. Work out where your club's at, and then work out the sort of coach. And that's what they're essentially saying. And what, reading between the lines, Jeff Walsh came and joined us last week. Yeah, and the interview was great. And he, reading between the lines, he said, well, yeah, they are a bit irrelevant and they're being inoffensive as a footy club. And, they've played finals once in 10 years, haven't really threatened, and that's got to change. Well, the bloke who's not inoffensive is Ross Lyon, which is interesting, given the way that footy's changed. If you go back and track the success of teams in recent times, it's about exploring your vulnerabilities. I think Damien Hardwick, who was cut from the Ross Lyon cloth, I reckon. Both, tough and hard and ruthless and relentless, but he had an epiphany or whatever it was, found he and Trent Cotchin and everyone else just said, well, hey, that's not the modern way, is bashing them over the head. And because make no mistake, old school St Kilda back in those 2008, 9, 10, 11 years, it was iron fist stuff.
Yes.
And it was, I'm coaching the top sort of tiered players hard here, and the rest, if you want to get into there, then you've got to find your way and let the others look after you. All that stuff that, if there's any criticism of Ross, it was a younger player, so I didn't get much time with him, and I think he was unapologetic. He goes, okay, I'm putting my time into these blokes who are going to win us a premiership, and they're a bounce of the ball away from doing it. Is that the style that will resonate with the modern day player?
Yeah, I don't know about the group at St Kilda. I guess what he has done is maximise the ability of the list. Now, if you're looking at St Kilda, I don't rate their list, but Ross Lyon hasn't cared about that. He's had role players that he's been able to maximise their talents. Now, is it a long-term situation to have the characteristics that you're describing to us? Will that work for 13 years, Damien Hardwick, Chris Scott? Probably not. Will they get a 2-year, bounce back, and will it really bring them all into line? Will they have a game plan that does galvanise everyone? Will they be scrounge, defensively, impossible to score against? Possibly. Is it a long-term solution? I'm not sure. I'm interested in the Saints fans' thoughts on this, and you can join in the discussion with us. But these are all relevant questions that, until they tell us who's going to coach the footy club, we are speculating a little bit. But
yeah, join us 1300 736 736 0433 98 11 16. Let us know. Tony from East Bentley says, hey, the following players missed through injury on the way home the back half of the year when they went 3-8. They were 8-3, and they went 3-8 in the back half. Howard, Clark, Ryder, Hayes, Gresham, McKenzie, Marshall, Steele, Jones, all missed more. Did they review the long injury list? Yep, I can appreciate that. Are they match winners? Are they? And another thing they said, which I found really interesting, we don't want to get stuck in the 6 to 10. A lot of those players they're playing might keep you in the 6 and 10 bracket. I'm not sure they're going to elevate you into where you need to go.
yeah, and then the list situation, will there be more changes? We're hearing reports that St Kilda have reached out to Jason Cripps, the Port Adelaide list manager. So will there be more to follow? I just think they've made their mind up with Ross, and they've thought, we have a list that they rate, I don't rate it, and that Ross can get the best out of that list. But
I wonder if Ross rates it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. And is Ross all in? Is he doing it for the right reasons? He's been very hesitant about that. So I mean, this information will be uncovered in the coming weeks. But yeah,
when you hear Jeff Walt talk, and I know, I'm not saying Jeff's had his hand in this, but if he is a hard ass, and his assessment of them, Andrew Bassett, I think you'll find, is a hard man. Now, he's a hugely successful businessman, and I am told he is a very, very hard man. And maybe this, as a group, they've just got to the point where they go, enough's enough.
So are they essentially saying Brett was too soft on the group? But it's such a balance, and you've hit on that this morning. I think
they're an inoffensive footy club. I think they internally viewed themselves in the end as an inoffensive footy club, and in terms of this hard edge and all, I'm not a St Kilda supporter, but everything I'm seeing and reading coming through here. So nobody made us more relevant in the last 50 years than Ross. I hope the rumours are true. He'll drive standards better than anyone, turn two basket cases around. And then Jake says there's plenty of underperforming talent. The application of uncompromising standards and stronger structures will push many of these players into relevance. That is the theme that keeps coming through from the St Kilda fans.
Everyone wants that, though. So I read Sam Mitchell's letter to his members. He said, I'm not interested in making the 8. I'm interested in winning premierships. So he's made a couple of really hard calls, and we can debate that on another day this week of Hawthorn and others. So everyone is trying to be that. But to your point this morning, the newer generation, can they handle that? They all say that they want it. And I hear, I think it was Nick Hine from Essendon go on a podcast during the week and say, looking forward to Brad Scott driving harder standards. But then I see 25 Essendon players in Ibiza for the... Do you really want it? Does this modern generation... that you say you want it, but do you really want to sign up for it?
Well, if you don't, then you're in the wrong game.
Correct.
That's my opinion, right? And Brad Scott is going to have, and is having, I am led to believe, a similar, well, that sort of an impact where players are going, geez. And they're looking at him going, what do we got? You know, his ability to be uncompromising and drive standards, I think, is well founded, and his ability to impact that onto this football club at Essendon is going to be interesting to watch. Same. I get the same sense from St Kilda. When you get your Essendon players, and this is a fact, halfway through last year they turned around and said, we need to be coached harder. We want to be coached harder. And so then, you know, they made a few adjustments and they become more accountable as a footy side and went back to, you know, that can happen at a footy club, I reckon.
Yeah.
Like, it's not reflective of the standard from this coaching department, then the players get frustrated.
Yeah, and there's a few clubs. The Western Bulldogs are probably similar. All the talent in the world that don't want to defend. Essendon is certainly a great example of that. But everyone is looking for the same thing, but it's just, can the newer modern generation, they want it, can they handle a Ross Lyon style? We'll find out.